And obviously discuss different tactics that we can do to get more involved in the community. We invited several people here to come and speak, but as I mentioned before to several other attendees here, the focus here is students, and that's what we wanted to keep it on. As we go on, and we'll be talking a little bit about the life of Cesar Chavez and what it means to us right now and what it could mean for our students in the future. It's still a fight, it's definitely not over, and this is what we're here to kind of let you guys know, that the fight is still going on. I do want to acknowledge a few people that helped this event get together. First and foremost, Mr. Carlos Romero, the Upward Bound coordinator here. I cannot begin to even say how happy I am to work with such a great man. He really goes the extra mile for the students. We always joke around kind of in our hallway in the office about what our office hours are. When you're helping students and you're as passionate as Carlos Romero is, you don't have office hours. It's a life commitment. It's a passion that you have, and honestly, you don't clock out from that. So students, even though I know Carlos loves it when you call him on Friday and Saturday night, please continue to do so. We are here to serve you guys, okay? So no, but he is available at all moments of the night, so please understand that sometimes he cannot answer the phone, but again, students, please continue to take advantage of these programs, these services here. We have Rob here, and what he's going to do is he's going to talk a little bit about the fight apart from the Cesar Chavez community. There's a huge impact of the Filipino community in this fight here for workers' rights. So the first thing is I know this day here is for Cesar Chavez. I know it is. But we definitely cannot forget the hundreds and thousands of people that fought along him in the struggle here and are not remembered. Okay, and many of those are Filipino brothers and sisters as well. So even though the movie and the focus today is Cesar Chavez, we cannot forget, again, the hundreds and thousands of people that joined together to fight this fight and to get us as far as we are right now, with not just workers' rights, but obviously civil rights as well. So what I would like to do is have a quick little, maybe short moment of silence, guys, for all of the people that fought in this great movement, but are not remembered for whatever reason or not, guys. So if you just want to bow your head, and if it's okay if you don't remember someone maybe in your family that made a difference in your guys' fight to get education. So a short moment of silence, please. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Dick. So, thanks everyone for being here. Good morning. How's everyone doing? Cool. So, the first thing I wanted to do was lead everybody in something that's called the Unity Clap. And the Unity Clap comes directly out of the farm workers movement in the 60s. It was used because not all of the farm workers and people that were in the movement spoke the same language. The two major groups of people that were in the farm workers movement, as many of you may know, were Filipino farm workers and Chicano farm workers. So if everybody would like to stand up, we can do the Unity Clap.
Started as a Filipino clap.
What's that?
It was started from the Filipinos.
It was started from the Filipino
And
clap.
at the end, you jump forward with the right foot. That's how they did it.
And they say, Iksan Baksan, right? Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, no, it's important to remember that history that's behind this clap, and it's been used by many different groups since the farm workers movement. So thank you for that. So the way that it starts out slow. We start in a unified clap, like the rate of a heartbeat, and it starts speeding up until we're clapping as fast as we can, and then once we're clapping as fast as we can, we all pause, and we say the words Iksang Baksak, all together in unison. And Iksang Baksak is from the Filipino language Tagalog, and it means one down. And in the farm workers movement, they said this to symbolize that when one of us falls, we all fall. And so that we need to work together to change things and to make this world a better place. So if we'd like to start the clap, and then does anybody need to practice saying Iksang Baksak? We all have that? Got it down? Alright, so here we go. Thank you. Okay, so I was given the opportunity to come here this morning and speak to you all. And what I wanted to share with you is a song by a Filipino hip-hop artist from LA by the name of Bamboo. And as Daniel already mentioned, I think it's important that we recognize in the history... Thanks. It's important that we recognize in the history of this movement how important it was for different groups of people to work together. And that this movement wouldn't have been as strong if it was just one group of people working together. And we need to remember that, and remember the strength that we have when we work together across our differences, across identity differences, for a better world. And so, in this song, Bamboo tells his own story, and in the second verse, he also tells the story of the Filipino farm workers and their leaders who helped start the grape strike in 1966.
From the very...
So, please enjoy, make yourself comfortable.
Okay, thank you very much for your speech and the music, of course. I'm really glad that we're incorporating music in this event here, guys. Music is so important to our cultura. It's important to every culture out there, so please get involved in the music community as well, guys. There's a lot of great things going on. It's not all hate music. There's a lot of great stuff going on out there. You just have to search for it. I do want to get started, guys, with our guest speaker here. We invited one of our former faculty members here at Pima College, Mr. Cesar Chavez. He's been teaching for about over 36 years now. He's been teaching specifically at Pima College for about 22 years. He taught the Chicano Studies class here for about 10 years here on this campus and had a huge following, was extremely involved with Mecha and other student programs in here. If I remember correctly, when I first started here at Pima, his classes were bursting at the seam every semester, which to me tells me that students want to learn their history. They want to learn where their people have come from and their struggles that they've done. It's about establishing their own identity. So again, I'd like to call Mr. Chavez up to give us a few words here. And again, we'll continue with the program, of course. Mr. Cesar Chavez.
Thank you. Good morning. How's everyone? It's good to be back. I retired in 2010 from here. Like he said, I taught Chicano Studies here for a long time. I always would wake up in the morning and think about what I did here. And I couldn't believe that I was getting paid to teach about our history and our people and the struggle, especially when I would teach the struggle of the 1960s, and especially when I would teach about Cesar Chavez. When I think about Cesar Chavez, I think about him quitting the CSO because he was not happy, because he was limited to organizing only urban dwellers, only the barrios. His passion was to work with the Farm Workers Union. And he left a good paying job at the CSO. He was director, regional director, state director. And with his 7 kids, his wife went to California. No money, no political connections, very little of anything. Why would a man who had an 8th grade education believe that he could go to California and organize farm workers? If your teachers have taught you anything about organizing farm workers, is that nobody in the history of the United States has ever successfully organized farm workers. No one in the history of the United States has done that. So why would this man believe that he could do it? So what were these challenges? Those challenges were farm workers who were not used to being organized, were afraid to be organized, were afraid to speak out because of being fired. Growers who were very arrogant, very powerful, who had lots of money, who could do anything they wanted to the workers. Anything they wanted. There was nobody around to tell them anything. Then they had friends, politicians, powerful politicians who supported them. Then they had the courts, the judges, the sheriffs, lawyers who supported the growers. Then you had people like the Governor Reagan. And later on you had people like President Nixon who supported the growers. So why would a man, again with a Native education, believe that he could take on these powerful sources? And then we have to ask ourselves, why was he so successful? And he was successful because he had one thing, one weapon, and I think we need to not lose sight of that weapon, and that's nonviolent struggle. And what we mean by nonviolent struggle is he would pray, he would fast, he held marches, nonviolent strikes. I remember I worked with Cesar Chavez, I worked with the union. When I graduated from, sorry folks, ASU, I was a student activist, and I really did not want to go to a regular job. All my friends took up their careers and started working in different careers, and I was a student activist, and I wanted to continue my student activity, my student activism. So right around the same time that I graduated, the Arizona legislature passed a bill that became law that outlawed secondary boycotts in Arizona. That passed a bill, became law, that made it very difficult for the farm workers to organize strikes during harvest time. Okay? And just 2 years earlier, Chavez had forced the growers in California to sign agreements with his union. He forced something like 26 growers to sign agreements. So the Arizona legislature, along with their cronies, the people who own the big farms here in Arizona, got together and passed this law because they knew that Arizona was next. And sure enough, when they passed this law, Chavez came to town. He came to Arizona to organize. And that's when I joined the union. And Chavez believed in sacrifice. And when you join the union, you work for $25 a week. So you get $10 and $15, one for food and one for gas, and that's it. And they give you a place to sleep, a place to stay, really. I stayed here on 29th Street in a house with about 15 other people, and you sleep on the floor. You know, just get some blanket, sleep on the floor, and that was it. So Chavez believed that if you wanted to work for him, if you really believed in the cause of helping farm workers, you needed to understand what sacrifice was all about. I can tell you that in my classes, when I taught my classes, I taught them with a lot of passion because I lived through a lot of the 60s and 70s. We went through a lot of the protests in Vietnam. We saw a lot of brutality. We saw a lot of abuse. And so I knew firsthand some of the things that were being taught in Chicano classes. I went through a lot of those things. I met a lot of the Chicano leaders like Jorge Gonzalez and Reyes Lopez de Herina, and a lot of those people in my student activism. So when I taught my classes, I taught them with passion because I really believe that our people really need to understand their history. And probably of all the Chicano leaders that I know, Cesar Chavez is the one that I believe is probably the most prominent. And I say that because Chavez, somebody brought it up, the speaker before that, he brought the Filipinos into the movement. In fact, the Filipinos sort of forced him into organizing the first strike. They had already started the strike. He needed to support them. Okay? And he worked in Florida with blacks. He organized blacks. He also, when I worked for Cesar Chavez with the union here in Arizona, my bosses were white. And we had a lot of white Anglo people in the movement, in Cesar Chavez's movement. So he was very, very inclusive of people. My bosses were Protestant ministers, Jim Drake and Richard Cook. They were my bosses here when I was here in Arizona. Protestant ministers. He was a devout Catholic. So he brought people of all religious backgrounds, people of all cultural backgrounds, racial backgrounds, together for one cause. If you believe in the cause of helping the farm workers union, helping the farm worker, he wanted you in his movement. And of course you had to pledge a non-violent movement, not being non-violent at all times. So that's what I remember about Cesar Chavez. And to me, my experience with the union, my experience with Cesar Chavez, with everything, I blossomed more, I had more confidence in myself, and I later on moved out of the movement, or at least out of the union, I began to teach, and I started my career. But that experience has always been with me, it's carried with me for even until now. And so that Chavez's legacy is very, very important for us, because number one, he joins the ranks of other world leaders like Martin Luther King, who used nonviolent methods to achieve civil rights, Mahatma Gandhi, who led the independence movement from British rule in India in a nonviolent way. Nelson Mandela, who used nonviolence to help his people in self-government, in South African government. Okay, so he is in the ranks of people who are highly regarded in this world, and highly regarded in the United States. Some people say Cesar Chavez was a Chicano leader. Some people say he was a civil rights leader. Some people say he was a labor organizer. And I say he's an American hero because he's part of American history. He's part of the mainstream of America. And he's the one person that I can tell you that his success was nonviolent, but his other success was being able to communicate with the American public. If he had not been able to communicate with the American public on the boycotts, boycott lettuce, boycott grapes, he would have never won. So he won the hearts of the American people. He was able to communicate with them and get them to support his cause. And that's why I think he's a great American hero. Thank you for inviting me.
Definitely committed to empowering our students to find their own voice. A lot of students, especially when they get to college, if they don't have a strong voice, okay, they're not going to be noticed. In other words, when you get to college, you have to know how to speak for yourself, how to speak for what you want and what you need. And that's what we try to show you guys in Upward Bound. We cannot figure out in our own heads exactly what your needs are to be successful, and every student's going to be different. Whether it's academic support you need, ask for it. Okay? Whether it's counseling or emotional or psychological support you need to ask for it. Okay? You can't just sit back and bury yourself in your own emotions and in your own mind, because no one can read your mind for you. You have to speak your mind. And on that note, I do want to call up some of our students that want to say a few words, basically speaking from their heart. They don't have to necessarily be around Cesar Chavez, but necessarily around their struggle. So I know I do have a few students that wanted to come up and say a few words here. It doesn't have to be long. It could be 30 seconds. It could be 5 minutes. Students or community members, if you guys want to say your words or say what you also feel about this day or about the fight and the struggle within our own cultura, please come join us as well. So I'd like to start off with some of the students though. Let me see, do I have any brave souls that want to come up first? I know some students prepared their speeches. Anthony, all right, I knew Anthony was going to do it. Anthony Juan is currently a senior at Sunnyside High School. He has a few options for college here. I know he's looking at maybe going to New Mexico State, but I do know some of the in-state universities are attractive as well to him. But again, he's debating on going to one of the main universities, and we're extremely proud of him. So please, another round of applause for Juan.
Hello?
You're good.
Okay. The reason why we're having this appreciation day for Cesar Chavez is not because he created Farm Workers United unions, all those unions for the farm workers. It's not because of that. It's because of his passion to have a voice for those who did not have one. That's what I really like about this guy. Pretty cool guy. And this admirable man shows that we have to fight to win. that no matter what, we have to fight, but in a peaceful manner, to not hurt anybody around us, maybe just to hurt ourselves, just to show sympathy. And yeah, that's it. That's all I have. Yeah.
Thank you, Anthony. Thank you very much. Thank you for breaking the ice. Honestly, it's one of the hardest things to do is come up here and public speak. If you guys can tell, I'm actually shivering up here. It's really difficult to do. But in any case, we do have several other students that prepared a few speeches. Thank you, Anthony. Or a few other people that want to come up, or I can just call on students to walk up here, because I know some of them are ready. If you want to get it over with, let's come and join us up here. We have Anita, we have William, we have a few other people. Anita's gonna do it. All right, Anita. Miss Anita Loaiza. She is currently a junior at Sunnyside High School. Exceptional student, and also an exceptional athlete in softball. Has joined many traveling clubs and does play in several tournaments out of state. So I do hope that she goes on and continues with her passion there. So Anita, would you like the mic? You can take it out of there if you'd like. Go ahead, Anita. Thank you.
We live in America, the home of the free, the land of opportunity. But the rule-makers of this great country may have forgotten one key point. The point that this land only grants opportunities to those of the right appeal. From the day of birth, we were born into a life where most of us would have less rights and opportunities just because of the color of our skin. But this didn't stop Cesar Chavez. Instead, it was his motivation. Chavez's motivation was to make a difference for farm workers such as Jose Labrado, the farm workers who practically slaved themselves working in the fields only to get little pay, no benefits, and be abused. Not all workers were illegal, but for those who were, most were set up for failure as soon as being brought into the fields. Buses would take workers from El Paso to California for the weeks of work. Once the job was done, workers would be taken back to El Paso, not knowing the immigration was there waiting to take any illegals away without their pay. This is said to be done intentionally. The following is an excerpt from Franklin Roosevelt's Four Freedoms. A free nation has the right to expect full cooperation from all groups. A free nation has the right to look to the leaders of business, of labor, and of agriculture to take the lead in stimulating effort, not among other groups, but within their own groups. Well, how can one look to the so-called leaders when they're the ones who look down and mistreat their own workers, their country's own citizens? We must look to each other for change. Chavez wanted what any other person in this world wants, and that is to have equality. When seeing the way he and his fellow co-workers were being mistreated, he decided it was time for change. Also said in Franklin's excerpt is, the first is freedom of speech and expression everywhere in the world. The second is freedom of person to worship God in his own way everywhere in the world. The third is freedom from want, which translated into world terms means economic understandings, which will secure to every nation a healthy peacetime life for its inhabitants everywhere in the world. The fourth is freedom from fear, which translated into world terms means a worldwide reduction in armaments to such a point and in such a thorough fashion that no nation will be in position to commit an act of physical aggression against any neighbor anywhere in the world. Freedom, peace, and rights are all that any person can ask for and all that the leaders say will be granted. But these are not the things that all receive. Latinos are the largest minority group, quickly becoming the majority of this nation. We have witnessed what one simple but determined man has accomplished. Just think what we can do as a people all together. Si se puede.
Muchas gracias, Anita. Amazing, and I do get chills on my spine when I hear my students speak. They tend to be very shy sometimes, and definitely in public spaces, guys, but you'll be amazed once you give these students a spotlight and a platform. You'll be amazed how critical thinkers they are, even at such a young age. I'm very proud of my students for stepping up here and doing this, and we're not done with some of the student speeches. So I do want to encourage maybe someone by the name of William Felix, if he's in the crowd, he can come up maybe. William, all right. Kind of call him out by name, of course, but thank you, William. And the mic is yours.
In our modern society, we face face many challenges that have been troubling as an ethnic group and as a people in general. It's a tough world all around. You're impossible to stand alone. And the way to survive and the way to thrive is to be unified. Every corner of our lives will hold trials and tribulations in which our bonds as people will be tested. During these moments in time, the true colors of everyone will show. And when they show, we can see how we can coexist. The unification of the people will mark the beginning of the end of violence, discrimination, hate, and anger towards others purely on ethnicity or culture. There is no reason behind it besides people learning and accepting it, for we are not given this feeling at birth. Besides people learning and accepting it, for we are not given this feeling at birth. We are molded into it, purely by those who discriminate against an entire group based on the wrongdoings of a few. Equality is just not fairness, it is the idea that comes naturally, only changed by the influences around us. When Chavez began his mission, he sought equality and rights for those who didn't have the luxury of them. People tend to take advantage of everything bestowed upon them. You really don't realize you have until it's gone. In Chavez's case, the people didn't have the equality of what we have today. They didn't know what it was like to have it. Every ounce of dedication they had, every last bit of effort into rallying for the cry for equality. Now there is an opportunity for room to grow and prosper. We have to stand against any rights as people being infringed. His mission was not only stated, presented, and enacted for the rights of a few for a small amount of time. His goal was to bring equality to all of those who have not been given the gift of it before. The mission was enacted to revolutionize the state of mind our blind girls has stumbled into. We cannot erase the past. The attempts to cover it up are futile. The idea that we can bypass the ways of darkness that have been committed is an impossibility. Nothing can hide behind the mask of tyranny that is discrimination and hate that covers our past. What we should do is acknowledge what is happening. Human suffering is something we cannot outrun. It is something in which we cannot bury, for it will eventually resurface. What is to be done is to learn the key word, acceptance. Acceptance is the first stage. After we are willing to understand and acknowledge the differences we as humans have, we can learn to unify and understand that intertwined cultures and ideals are not what make us weak, they only make us stronger. With the diversity in between each branch of the tree that is mankind, we will be able to look out and see different perspectives. We will see how others do and learn and compromise. Not everything is blessed with the perfect attributes to not suffer in this world, but through unification and the spread of the message based on equality, peace, love, and freedom, a message that should be embraced by all. So like in Cesar Chavez's day, the actions of discrimination were clear, and it all took to change the history of the world were a few people with dreams that aspired into the heavens. Those dreams opened up before them and let a cry for those the dreams come true. What was sparked as a pursuit of equality years prior had expanded to full movements worldwide. What can we learn from this? We can learn that the push for equality isn't done by one person. Being alone cannot solely bring change, but that one person can ignite what can be a movement. The one person that can be the catalyst that sparks the pursuit of change. You can be that person, like how Chavez was years ago, to keep the flame going, where it is still not completely equal. Rights are still being infringed, despite what's being promised. We can still unify and push for what we believe in. In Cesar Chavez's words, you are never strong enough that you don't need help.
Thank you very much, William. If you guys can believe it, he's only a sophomore in high school. Amazing, amazing voice on there. I do encourage you, William, to actually take more leadership roles at your school. You're a very great writer. So, I think I'm going to go ahead and ask some of our guest teachers here. If we introduced them in the morning, guys, if you weren't here, of course, this is Renee Teachea and Ray Siqueiros, of course. Two awesome teachers in the Sunnyside District right now. They're one of the reasons why some of the students that are not part of TRIO got organized here. And from what I know, guys, they've been in the fight much longer than I have, that's for sure. I'm not talking about age, guys.
Okay, thank you. Good morning. I'd like to introduce my three students who are going to speak. They're in my honors world history. The first is going to be Andrea Peña, and then Ana Torres, and then Israel.
Cesar Chavez was a man who would always give. He would do anything for his people and his family. He wanted his family to be treated with respect. and treated equally, but he also wanted that for his people and farm workers. In 1952, he became an organizer for the Community Service Organization, a Latino civil rights group. He urged Mexican Americans to register and vote. He traveled throughout California and made speeches in support of workers' rights. What Chavez achieved, he was a co-founder of the United Farm Workers Association in 1962 with Dolores Huerta. And the first union contracts required for the farm workers to have rest periods. Before that, farm workers would work for long hours without resting. Also, they asked for clean drinking water and hand washing stations. Things so simple, but for them it was difficult to obtain because they were treated like slaves. The exposure of pesticides would cause illnesses and death between workers and families. That's why they asked for protective clothing and first health benefits for farm workers and families. Throughout the years, the achievement that Cesar Chavez has made has given families and farm workers a better life. Thanks for Chavez for making this happen.
Okay, let's give it up for Ana Torres, Desert View High School. Can't believe I said that.
When social change begins, it cannot be reversed. You cannot educate the person who has learned to read. You cannot humiliate the person who feels pride. You cannot oppose the people who are not afraid anymore. Saying this quote from Cesar Chavez, it meant a lot towards me. I do understand I'm in high school, but I've been through it all. Doubt and humiliation, but I never back down to anyone. I never let anyone feel like they have the power to take advantage over me. Cesar Chavez was a man of his word. He stood up for people who were not being heard. Growing up for him, he always wanted to help the community who were in need of it. He led many a national boycott, hunger strike, and also other non-violent methods to advance living and working circumstances. Cesar Chavez was taking an enormous risk of police brutality and denial of rights leading this act. Among his great achievements throughout our history, we made Cesar Chavez Day on March 31st to remind us of the honor he served for many people who couldn't be heard from. What would it be like? I asked myself. I tried to wonder what life would have been if Cesar Chavez never stood up for our farm workers. Would history still have been the same? We as a community, and me as a citizen, would it change? This is why I'm truly honored today to speak of a man, not just any ordinary man, but one who made an impact upon us all. Thank you. Si se puede.
Let's give it up, Señorita Ortiz, Israel Noya, Desert View.
Hello. Ladies and gentlemen, I come here today to share with you my mind, not on a piece of paper, but in raw. And I come here to show you my passion. And today, I will speak to you a quote from Cesar Chavez. Preservation of one's culture does not require the contempt and disrespect for other cultures. Okay. And this quote and plenty of other of Cesar's sayings speak to me. They are passionate. And as I share with you today, the passion that I share. The passion that I feel for equality. And it makes you wonder, why this man would even continue. The police brutality he has suffered, and the plenty of losses for strikes, do not bring this man down. He is relentless. He will get what he wants. He did. He got equality for civil rights. And to this day, we can continue. And it does not mean that people can just give up so easily. A man like Cesar Chavez comes once in a million years. Someone who is passionate and will not give up. And a great example of someone else that believed in the same situation as Cesar is my nana. It was the year 1985 in Green Valley Pecan Factory at the San Juanita, Arizona. what happened is they weren't getting treated fairly. They were getting low wages and they had no insurance. What if someone got hurt on the job? And they went on strike. And to this day, I did not even know that. But I always knew that my grandmother was a brave woman. And just like other women and everybody, they deserve equality. They deserve to have a voice. And to this day, I may not understand what it was like back then. I wasn't there. I wasn't even born from that generation. But I'm born from this generation. But I do understand the passion and the feeling that they all share for equality. And, well, to say little words, we should all show our passion. Now, everybody say with me. Si se puede, si se puede, si se puede, si se puede. Okay. Okay, well, that's pretty much what I have to show all.
Give it up for Israel. All right. Finally, somebody from Sunnyside. Okay. Somebody's coming up. She's a freshman. Freshman 2017. Jennifer Quiroz. Go, girl.
Hi, my name is Jennifer, and I'm here today to talk about a great leader and role model, Cesar Chavez. I would like to start off reading one of his quotes that I found really inspiring. Students must have initiative. They should not be mere imitators. They must learn to think and act for themselves and be free. This quote mostly talks about students in general, and I would like to think that when he meant this, he was talking about how students, no one should control your decisions or lifestyles. Like students, they have a lot of pressure coming from like other people, and that's their right that, oh my gosh. Students or anyone in general should know that no one but themselves can control their own actions, that no race or government or family member should tell them who they are, that Cesar Chavez wanted like other students to know that no one defines you, that you define yourself. I wrote another quote from him, that we draw our strength from the very despair in which we have been forced to live, that we shall endure. I like this quote a lot because it relates to everyone as an individual. Sometimes the things or life situations that should break us are what makes us. Like, Cesar Chavez did a lot of things for farm workers, and he was a great civil rights activist, and he would speak for them because they had no voice, and he was their voice. And he would always try to bring change, and that the hardships in life, like the things that they would do, the farm workers, that all of that, the fact that they endure it is what makes them strong. And that he tried to bring change because no one would listen to any Mexican, Latino, or Chicano. They didn't really have a voice. Like if you're Mexican or Chicano, like the employers, they wouldn't really care. And he was their voice, and he did amazing things. Like he would do protests, like he would fast. You know what that is, fast? Like when you don't eat during the day or drink any water, and at night that's only when you eat. He would do that. One time he went for I think 26 days or 25 days doing that, and he was a great person in life because he would work for other people. He did things not just because he wanted to, but because he wanted to help people. He wanted to be someone in life, and I like this day a lot because it talks about him as a person. Like I want to be like him because he brought change to the world, and he was a great inspiration for everyone, for not just Latinos, for Chicanos, for Mexicans, for anyone, for any race. He was a great inspiration. He was a great person. And I'm glad that we're celebrating this day because he brought a lot of change. Because without him, we really wouldn't know what would happen now, like the change in history. He brought a great amount of change, and I'm proud to be here and talking with you guys about him because he was an awesome person. And yeah, I'm kind of nervous. I don't know what else to say, but we should after this, I'll go watch his movie and watch about his life and what else he did. life. So yeah, I'm happy to be here, and this was awesome. So thanks, guys. Goodbye. Goodbye.
Let's give it up for these kids. Give it up for these kids. We just want to say a couple words. Renee, here you go.
Okay, first, a round of applause to all the student speakers. You guys did an awesome job. Proud of you. And thank everyone for coming. I know the movie's going to be awesome. I can't wait. But you know, what I tell my students is that Cesar was born in the barrio Sal Si Puedes. And I think we all come from that barrio. And the thing is that how to get out, you know, through our minds and our heart, we have Si Se Puede. And I think that, you know, that message is strong. The message of social justice in our Tucson community. You know, we have Mr. Acosta here, who's still fighting the good fight, and for Chicano studies, you know, and with all the issues going on, not just locally, but globally, I think, you know, Cesar's legacy of social justice and fighting, you know, all human beings, you know, for rights and respect. So, si se puede.
Give it up for Renee. Just real quick, I want to thank again all the students for being here. Me and Renee helped begin a lot of stuff about 13, 14 years ago for Cesar Chavez. We said, after doing some marches against 203, which was banning bilingual education, and we mobilized a lot of people in our community, we got excited, and we said, we need to do something to honor Cesar Chavez. He's from Arizona. His mom, Juana, grew up in Tucson in Barrio Anita. Richard told me that he knew where the house was in Barrio Anita, so you know, we have a direct link. Cesar was born and raised in Yuma, Arizona, so we have a special responsibility to honor his legacy. We've been fighting for years to try to get a state-paid holiday for Cesar Chavez. It's been touch and go, it's been rough, uphill, downhill, but we got to keep that idea alive, and I just want to thank everybody for coming out today and honoring the kids. We want to prepare the kids for future leadership. Me and Renee have been working for many years, of course, the other people, to help our young people develop the skills that they need to take control, because we're getting ready to chill. But anyway, I just want to share this with you. I learned 2 weeks ago from Ernesto Vigil of the Crusade for Justice that the farm worker hand clap, like my brother said, is Filipino in origin. The first strike, the great boycott, was started by the Filipinos. And Cesar came and revolutionized it along with our Filipino brothers and sisters. But he said it's from the islands. You know, it's from the island, kind of like with the U of A football team doing their stuff before the games. That's the same thing. I spit a lot. That's what I do. Ask my kids. They get a free shower. Hey. So I wanna do it one more, but at the end we take a step forward with our right foot in that spirit. And I think that's beautiful, because that shows that we are multicultural in our essence. That being Chicano means respect for ourselves and being open to other cultures, whether you're African, whether you're Asian, whether you're white, whatever. We are open to everything, and that's what makes our people strong, and that's what continues us to the future. So I want to lead us in a hand clap, but at the last part I'm going to say 1, 2, 3, and then we all, come on, everybody get up. Everybody get up, come on. Get up. And at 1, 2, 3, we go with our right foot forward. Some of my students know this because I taught them last week. So go right foot forward at 1, 2, when I say 3, you go forward. So let's start slowly with the hand clap. Ready? Here we go. Go. 1, 2, we have room. 1, 2, hey, make sure you have room right here. 1, 2, 3, yeah, there you go.
As Daniel said, there is a really important vote coming up in Texas for the school board of education. Texas is on the edge of actually implementing Mexican American studies as a requirement in their history courses, their high school classes, which is very, very exciting. And the folks there have been so supportive of the movement here for Mexican American studies that we really want to show support and solidarity. So in honor of Cesar Chavez, what we would love to do is, if students are willing to be in a photo, we have a little sign, Viva MAS, Arizona supports Texas, and the folks at the legislature who are backing up this MAS initiative would love to have a picture that they can put up showing that the youth from Arizona are actually backing this in Texas. So if folks are willing, I think maybe they could come up here and we can do a picture before we take off for the march. That would be fantastic. So, thank you.